All this extreme supercar action is proudly driven by Dunlop tyres. Welcome to the Western Cape and to the mother city Cape Town, the home of Killarney International Raceway, where we're going to pick up on action from the first 3 rounds of the extreme supercars driven by Dunlop. Later on in the show, we'll head up to Kyalami Grand Prix Circuit for more action. As always at Killarney International Raceway, the crowds are here in full force, particularly for the first round of the Extreme Festival of Motorsport presented by Coca-Cola. And there are 3 races coming your way right now from the Extreme Supercars. Headed up by Brad Liebenberg, who got onto pole position. Looks like he's going to be a tough man to beat there, stepping into Extreme Supercars for the first time. Alongside him is Charles Arungis in that incredible Porsche. And the second row is made up of Jonathan du Toit and Franco Scribanti. Further back in the field, we'll be watching the action between the Gianacaro boys, Uli Sana out there as well, Renzo Torrente and Roy Aubrey in a brand new Porsche. The safety car moves out the way and we are ready to go for this first heat. Is Brad Liebenberg going to be able to get the drop down towards turn 1 and hang on to keep out Arungis in that incredibly fast Porsche, and 2 very fast cars right on his tail as well in du Toit and Scribanti. Lights are about to go out. You can see this nice pack of cars. It's certainly a big crowd-pleasing pack of cars here as they head towards turn 1 for the first time. And getting the drop is Brad Liebenberg. He's got the whole shot as they head into turn 1. Du Toit trying to sneak up the inside of his stablemate and tries there, but just doesn't quite get to the inside line ahead of Arungis, who hangs on for second. Scribanti is there in third place, looking to try and get ahead as quickly as possible. In the background, a nice start there coming out of Budnick and Gianni Gianacaro. Look out for Marius Jackson as well in the second of the Audis. It's an Audi that leads out front at the moment, and it's a fantastic start and a welcome to Brad Liebenberg into this class for the first time. He certainly knows how to do things in race cars. So in the past, whatever category he's jumped into, he normally dominates, and it's a nice start there from him. But that car there of Franco Scribanti is normally the force to be reckoned with. Sitting down in 4th place at the moment. Watch in the background, you've got Budnick leading up the second pack. He comes flying through there with Jackson on his tail. And you can see the rest of that pack with the 2 Gianacaro boys tucked in there. And look out for Uli Sana as well. And then Paul Hill in the mix for the first time for a long time to see him back in a race car. This is Budnick in the big Dodge Viper. Under attack now, and a bit of manoeuvring in the background there coming out of Shahir Harpel as well. In the Lamborghini Gallardo Trofeo, he's starting to make his way up in amongst those Audis fighting just behind the Viper. Brad Liebenberg getting away. A little bit of manoeuvring happening there from Franco Scribanti, starting to put the pressure on, and Jonathan du Toit starting to feel it as he went defensive across the line. In fact, he's actually got through. Down into Hole's Hook, making an overtaking manoeuvre, now tucks in behind Arungis as they go into Cashel Corner here. Second turn, and heading out onto the little kink that heads down to this part of the circuit. The bottom end of the circuit, the lowest part of the circuit going through Dam Stip. And a nice little manoeuvre there from Scribanti to find a way past. Du Toit is going to try and come back at him. A GT3 battle and A+ battle going on here big time for what is 3rd place on track. But you can see the Sheriff is starting to just turn the wick up ever so slightly. Scribanti has his sights firmly set there on Arungis. Arungis doesn't seem to have an answer to Brad Liebenberg, who currently leads out and will try and maintain that gap right till the end. You can see the big gap that's opened up there for 5th place, and Budnick has got away from that second pack of cars now, and he's all on his own sim down that back straight. As they come down here into turn 5, Cape Town corner. On the sideline, lots of support there for Brad Liebenberg as he comes across the line, still leading. He has a chance for a change up between the 2 Porsches. I think there's an opportunity there, maybe for Scribanti to outgun Arungis down into the bottom end. Moving back, Shahir Harpel under a bit of pressure there. Look at the pressure being put on there by Marco Retta. Nice to see that man stepping up in the BMW, and he's fighting hard there with Gianacaro. This is the battle of nature, and then just behind it you can see the 2 Gianacaro boys having an absolute blast, trying to find a way through there on the BM and on their ex-car. That Lamborghini Trofeo used to be in that stable, remember. And Blunden coming from the back end of the field as well, starting to get into the mix too. Great to see that. And at the front end, whoa, a massive change at the front end. Scribanti's at the front, he's got through on Liebenberg, but he's found a way through on Charles Arungis and now leads out completely. Will he be able to get away from this pack? I think Brad Liebenberg does not want to let him get away. He knows the history of this car and its potential that it has, particularly down here on the Cape with this long straight. The straight end and top end speed of the Porsche is incredible. But the one thing we have to take into account is they have a breakout time per class. And with the maneuvering that this car has made, getting to the front end, has Franco Scribanti maybe gone a bit quicker than what he's allocated per class. If that's the case, there may be a time penalty coming at the end of the race, depending on where he finishes up. If he finishes where he is right now with the flag about to come out, it means that he could possibly have broken out, and with that, he's going to be dropped back a couple of positions with a time penalty. So coming across the line, that means Brad Liebenberg would possibly have taken the victory. Let's get a confirmation of that. Arungis in second and du Toit in third. That's exactly what happened. It's Scribanti who drops down into 4th place ahead of Budnick, Gianacaro, Marius Jackson and Shahir Harpel. Ricky Jonakara in the Mercedes-Benz just beating Ant Blunden, the two teammates having a good battle. And then the two BMs having a fantastic battle with Roy Obery, Retta and Torrente. Let's move on to race number 2 now and see if anybody's going to have the answer to Franco Scribanti's straight line speed. But more importantly, can he stay within that allotted time lap that he's allowed to do per class? They start in almost exactly the same positions. Scribanti a bit further back in the pack due to that penalty. But lights are about to go out. And once again, I thought we might see Brad Liebenberg sneaking through, but he goes down to 3rd place. It's a great start coming out of Charles Oranges. He leads things out. Jonathan du Toit under pressure already in the Lamborghini Huracan. Looking for a chance now to squeeze through there was Brad Liebenberg, race winner. And already Scribanti up into 4th place. So Franco Scribanti in the 4th spot right now. Behind him is Budnick. Then you've got Jonakara, first of the McLarens, tucked in behind there as well in the G&H car. Budnick fighting for Class A. Jonakara trying to catch the GT3 cars that he should be fighting with up the road here. These three, in fact, is exactly who he needs to catch. But behind that is Franco Scribanti. Now, Scribanti runs Class A. The GT3 class is the national class in this category, and they're working to try and get those national championship points in the bag, which is exactly why Charles Oranges is not allowing Jonathan du Toit any breathing room here. A little bit of manoeuvring there from Jonathan du Toit. You can see just trying to make up a slightly different line coming out of Cape Town corner, trying to get the drive out to get away from Brad Liebenberg, who sits on his tail there in 3rd. And they're all looking in those rearview mirrors for the sheriff to pounce, because I think Scribanti is about to make that first maneuver. He goes up on the inside of Brad Liebenberg and has to change his mind. In fact, Brad Liebenberg dropping by the wayside there. Looks like there might have been a problem there on Liebenberg's car. He fell back big time and drops down to 4th place into the clutches of Budnick. It's Jonathan du Toit who loses out into turn 1. I didn't expect the Porsche to go through on 2 cars there, but because Brad Liebenberg slowed up so badly, I think he might have missed a gear coming onto the straight, because he's now made up that ground. So maybe just a small mistake there, learning that car. It's only I think the 4th time he's ever been in the cockpit of that car, besides the qualifying and practices they did the day before. But a fantastic start nonetheless. But look at the pace of this Porsche. It's just a matter of time before he catches Charles Oranges, and Oranges will be aware of that. Oranges will not make it easy, though, for Franco Scribanti. He's going to try and make it a little bit more difficult for the sheriff to find a way past. So we've got the Porsche from Scribanti trying to close down on Oranges for the lead. And Oranges right now, I think he's also watching those rearview mirrors. He knows it's just a matter of time. They close up big time down that back straightaway. And the same thing happens here with Brad Liebenberg. Having a look at Jonathan du Toit into Cape Town corner. Didn't quite get there, though. So the Turn Me On Audi is slowly but surely closing in there on that incredible car out of Trans-Africa Racing. And I tell you something, it's a tough car to beat, particularly at circuits where Jonathan du Toit is comfortable, and he's very comfortable down here in Cape Town. Speaking of comfortable, the most comfortable man in the track right now is Franco Scribanti. He knows that little bit of extra squirt that comes out of the Porsche will align through on the straightaways, and it comes through for the lead of the race ahead of Oranges now. Oranges is going to try and stay there, make it Porsches 1 and 2. Lamborghini's in 3rd place ahead of the Audi. And that R8 has not found a way past just yet on Jonathan du Toit. Du Toit will make that Audi very, very wide. Try and stop any attempt from Brad Liebenberg to squeeze up and get into the lead of this race, particularly in the battle for GT3s, which is 2nd, 3rd and 4th place on track. Remember, the Class A car out front is fighting for Class A honours. Now, the other thing you've got to take into account is, has he broken out again? Because he did set some incredible lap times to come through on these cars in race number 1. And now in race number 2, is he going to set some lap times to get away from them? Oh, there we go. There's just an example of that little bit of extra squirt that comes out of Scribanti's Porsche down the back straight away. Du Toit now all over the back of Oranges, bringing Brad Liebenberg along for the ride. Awesome 3-way battle here for the GT3s. This is an awesome start to the season here for Franco Scribanti. It's going to be 2 wins out of 2 starts for him by the looks of it. If anything doesn't go wrong for that car, which is highly unlikely, as he comes down into turn 1. That's the gap he's now pulled away from Oranges, who's under big threat from Jonathan du Toit, and in fact runs a little bit wide, and Liebenberg had a look. Liebenberg had a big look there to try and squeeze out the Lamborghini ahead of him. Jono fortunately saw him coming and went defensive, as he does again now into Castrol, but this time opens up the door a little bit too much. Brad Liebenberg had the nose in, and he had no choice other than to give Brad a little bit of room to come through and make that move stick. So Brad now up into 3rd place, side by side with the Toy down towards Damstip. Nearly squeezes him out, but no, he's got the inside line, so he'll have to tuck in and follow him through to try and close down on Oranges. I don't think any of these 3 that are fighting for second at the moment on the road overall have got the straight line speed or any inclination to try and catch the man out front. They're going to fight for GT3 honours. They know that the A-Class car doesn't really affect their championship, so they're going to maintain the battle between themselves here and not really worry too much about Franco's pace. It's a great battle between the GT3 top 3. It's for second overall on the road. And they head across the line to complete another lap in anger. Scribanti leading things out. Amazing run here from him. Further back as they start their final lap, it's Marius Jackson versus Paul Hill. The other two R8s having a bit of a fight of their own there. Also GT3 spec cars, but these cars, of course, fighting for Class B honours. As you see, Budnick still continuing the lead at the front of the second pack of cars. Let's go back to the leaders now. Looks like a little bit more pressure coming here from Jonathan Dutoy. Looking for a way on the inside to get on Charles Arangis. Oh, yo, there we go. Little tag coming there between Dutoy and Arangis. Dutoy had the inside line, but Arangis took his normal line, and there wasn't really an opportunity for Jono to find a way through there. He tried to squeeze through, there wasn't space, and he's tagged the front left-hand side of that Lamborghini. Has Arangis got a bit of damage, looks like he might get away. And he might have a little bit of right rear end damage, but he has been able to get back on track. So the two stablemates coming together there. That's allowed Brad Limburg to get away. The Lambo's back on track as well. We had a big enough lead over Chris Budnick, who just comes through shot there in the foreground. But it looks like, well, it's now plain sailing for Scribanti. He's got no worries at all. Brad Limburg's not going to catch that gap in the last half a lap, that's for sure. So Limburg looks like he's going to have to settle for second place on the road, but he's going to win the GT3 class. Scribanti's going to win Class A, and easily done in the end there for him. And then it's going to be whoever survived out of that crash that can still make it to the line for race 2 honours. So here we go. Class A, Franco Scribanti. Class GT3, Brad Limburg. That's 2 wins out of 2 starts for both of those cars. And there is the slightly damaged and battle-scarred Lamborghini. Under attack now from the Viper. Budnick in that Dodge Viper, the bucketless racing machine, might get ahead, and I think he might squeeze through. Yes, he does. He comes across the line and finishes up just ahead of the Lamborghini. But let's get those official results there. It looks like Franco Scribanti was given another penalty for breaking out of his allotted lap times. Limburg takes the win ahead of Charles Arangis with Scribanti down in third. Then Blunden wins out over John Akaro. Reto Aubry and Ulisana having a good battle there for 11th to 13th. Welcome back. We're at Killarney International Raceway for the third and final heat of round 1 of the Extreme Festival of Motorsport. Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop. Race 3 now about to take place. Is it going to be more of the same there between those 3 GT3 cars? A couple of battle-scarred machines on the front end. You can see a bit of duct tape work being done there to patch up the left front-hand side of Jonathan Dutoy's Lamborghini after him and Charles Arangis had a little tag at the end of race 2, which you saw just before the break. Now as they come down towards turn 2, it's Brad Limburg who leads out. And looks like Franco Scribanti down in 4th place ahead of Gianni Giannacora. Much better start there from Gigi. He's up ahead of Budnick. So first time we've seen the McLaren ahead of that V10 Viper. And can he maintain that space now? That's where he wants to be. He wants to be in the mix here with the GT3 cars that he's piloting against in this championship. So to find a way through there on Franco Scribanti, that's not going to be easy to do in the McLaren. But needless to say, he is ahead of Budnick and the 2 Audis. And it's Paul Hill who's actually ahead of Marius Jackson as well. So a couple of changes here in this third and final heat in terms of the normal running that we've seen all day long here at Killarney International Raceway. Into that back straightaway now, watching in the background, Ricky Giannacaro is there too. There's a manoeuvre coming from Budnick from the Viper. Can he find a way on Gianni? No, Gianni hangs on. Budnick also maintains a defensive line into Cape Town corner. And as they exit Fostron, it looks like there's going to be a little manoeuvre coming out of Marius Jackson to try and remedy the fact that he's not the second Audi on circuit, as he has been all day long. John Akaro in the Mercedes-Benz ahead of Blunden. Blunden just ahead there of Roy Aubry. Much better start from Aubry as well. He's got away from the BMWs this time and now starts to concentrate his efforts on the McLaren of Blunden. So the McLarens are into the mixture a bit better than what they have been all day long. Particularly Gigi, because Gianni Giannacaro is hanging on just ahead here of Budnick in the bucketless racing Viper. There's certainly a lot more straight line speed out of the Viper, but the maneuverability of that little McLaren seems to be working well here, particularly in the third and final heat of this Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop. As they come now through Damstip, looking up the road there, that is a sad sight to see. That's Franco Scribanti pulling to the sideline. So has the sheriff given up? I think he might have gone a little bit too much there, and maybe with the manoeuvring he did in race 1 and 2, he's had some kind of an issue on the car. He's had to retire the sheriff and park it on the sideline. So that leaves the GT3 battle between Liebenberg, Arangis and Jonathan Dutoy at the front end, and this battle between Budnick and Giannacaro. Giannacaro now, he's lost that 3rd place on the road, which was gifted to him with the demise there of Franco Scribanti, and he now drops down into 4 and 5 place battle. He was looking to try and stay with Arangis, but look at the gap there between those first 3 cars. It's opened up pretty hectically. Blunden has got ahead of Ricky Jonakaro. Jonakaro has actually got ahead there of Marius Jackson. And the change of surface flag there could possibly be because of some fluids being dropped by the Porsche of Scribanti. Not quite sure what the issue is there. There's Roy Obrey's new car, also looking quite resplendent in those new colours as well. And certainly getting to grips with that car pretty rapidly. So Blunden ahead of Jonakaro. That's a bit of concern there for Ricky, but here's Ricky trying to come back at him and remedy that fact. Sneaks through in the AMG and makes that one stick into Castrol. But they've also got change of surface flag here, so I have to assume that there was potentially some fluid that came out of the Porsche on its retirement, and that's why turn 1, 2 and 3 are under change of surface flags. Coming to the line though for the checkers is the Turn Me On and Sparko Audi, and a great run here from Brad Liebenberg will give him 3 wins out of 3 starts in the GT3 category, and his first time out in Extreme Supercars is certainly a baptism of fire. Well done, taking the victory there over Jonathan du Toit in the battle-scarred Lamborghini, and Charles Orangi's in 3rd place. Roy Obrey coming through across the line there as well. He'll finish a little bit further down, but there are your official results. Liebenberg, du Toit ahead of Orangi's and Budnick, Paul Hill and Jonakaro, Roy Obrey in the top 8. Brilliant stuff from him. Then it's Torrente and Blunden, Jimmy Jonakaro and Gianni Jonakaro, and as we saw, the retirement there of the Porsche of Franco Scribanti. From Killarney we head to Kyalami, and the bumper weekend sees the Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop met by a massive crowd coming out to enjoy the joint Extreme Festival weekend. And all the youngsters have come out. You can see them even wearing the right shirts. Ferrari fans, Porsche fans and Lamborghini fans all looking to be entertained big time here as Extreme Supercars hits the Highveld for the first time in 2025. And the majority of these competitors are looking forward to entertaining this massive crowd that's come out to Kyalami. It certainly shows that there is a lot of interest in the Extreme Festival, and a lot of interest particularly in the Extreme Supercars. We were on board there, as you can see, with Marius Jackson as we're heading around to take up their positions for the race start. Expect to see some big action at the front end, as we're going to see Brad Liebenberg try and extend his lead in this championship. But he doesn't start from the front row though, as you can see, and problems there for Budnick on the start. The V10 Viper pulls to the sideline and out of harm's way does he go. Here comes Liebenberg looking for the chance to get the whole shot. Does he squeeze through? Yes, he does. He takes the lead into Crowthorne, so leading things out from the start. Gianni Jonakaro trying to close things down onto the back end of Paul Hill. Paul Hill getting ahead of Jonakaro, so it's not the usual contenders that Gianni would be fighting with. He's got Hammond on his tail. He's got Hammond just up the road. So it's Damien in the Liqui car and Sam in the Trinity car just behind that. Jackson is behind Sam Hammond. You can see there the second of the Audis in that fight. In fact, it's the third one, because we don't have to take into account that Brad Liebenberg leads the field, of course, in the R8 out front ahead of Ryan Naka. Jonathan du Toit, now no longer battle-scarred, but completely fixed after that incident between him and Charles Orangi's. Pity that Charles Orangi's is not here. As they come through the S's, Jonathan du Toit's got to try and do everything he can to close that gap down that Brad Liebenberg has opened in this championship overall, with 3 victories out of 3 starts at the beginning of the season in Cape Town. From the back, that is Hammond in the Liqui Lamborghini. Then it's Paul Hill under attack from Gianni Jonakaro. GG in the McLaren trying to find a way through. Can't quite get there just yet, but certainly putting pressure onto the back end of that Primogen car of Paul Hill. An Audi versus the 720S, and now we've got an Audi out front ahead of an AMG and the Lamborghini Huracan. And they're pulling a little bit of a gap there, is Liebenberg. He's getting slightly away here, possibly due to the fact that Ryan is going defensive and keeping Jonathan du Toit out. So it might be slowing both of them up. We're on board here with Jackson as they come through that tight right-hander at Cheetah, now towards Ingwe. Is he going to try and have a look on the inside? He does put a nose there, but I don't think he's close enough. Yep, the Samlin Lamborghini just hangs on for now as they come across the line and completes another lap. So Sam Hammond, a big welcome return to him. He had a massive one only a couple of years ago down at the Pekisa Freeway when we still raced there, also in a Lamborghini. But fortunately, great to see him back in action now in that Lamborghini Trofeo and fighting hard there with his son on track in a similar car up the road. Top 3 getting away. Brad Liebenberg controlling things and not giving any room there for Ryan Naka to even look at closing that gap down. Naka's tried hard, but he's had to go on the defensive while he's trying to attack, and that's not always the easiest thing to do in a supercar. If they go down to the S's, you can see they might have closed that gap slightly there on Brad Liebenberg, but that might be because Brad might have rolled out, realizing that he's got enough margin for them to still fight it behind and him to still maintain the lead. Up towards Leeuwkop they go. It's a triple apex here. You see them cut that second part, and then on the final exit, there's a good line from Jonathan du Toit. He can hold that pace down the hill. There's a chance for him down into Crocodiles to maybe have an overtaking maneuver there on Ryan Naka. Back on board with Jackson as he tries to close things down. In fact, he's made up a huge amount of ground. He's got through, I think, on John Okoro. Yeah, a long way up the road. I think Gianni must have had a problem somewhere. He's gone missing, and it's allowed Jackson to close that gap now onto the back end of the second Audi. Further back there, Jimmy John Okoro having a fantastic run. He loves that little Porsche of his. It's his new favourite car as he goes through Barbecue and Yuxke. Coming to the final corner, there's an opportunity here, but I don't think it's going to happen. No, Jonathan du Toit is not close enough, and Brad Liebenberg has controlled it to perfection. The flag is about to come out. That's going to be 4 wins out of 4 starts for Brad Liebenberg, and beating to the line Ryan Naka in the Mercedes-Benz AMG. Jonathan du Toit was behind him. Here comes Budnick. He's going to finish up in 5th place. We just missed out on Damien Hammond going through there in the Lamborghini from Liqui Moly. And then it's the 2 Audis, and it is going to be Paul Hill who is going to get the advantage over his fellow Audi pilot, who finishes up in 7th place for Maurice Jackson in the MJR Audi. Let's get the official results. Brad Liebenberg beats out Ryan Naka, Jonathan du Toit and Damien Hammond. It's Budnick, Paul Hill, Jackson and John Okoro, and Sam Hammond and Uli Sana will bring up the top 10. Jimmy John Okoro, good run from him, beats out Gianni John Okoro, who had some problems right in the end, and a DNF there for Ant Blunden and Stefan Schneiders. Welcome back to race 2 of the Extreme Supercars, driven by Dunlop at Kyalami Grand Prix Circuit, and what an amazing first race we had. More of the same coming your way as we're back on board with Maurice Jackson, going into that final corner now, and they're all lining up and ready to go for another epic battle here at the Kyalami Grand Prix Circuit. A lot of the crowd have stuck around to see these cars in full flight, and they are absolutely loving what we've put out on track so far. Is it going to be Brad Liebenberg again? Looks like we've got a bit of issues there for Liebenberg, starting from 3rd place this time. He's going to have to work a bit harder to get through on Ryan Naka, and Jonathan du Toit is certainly going to try and keep him out, because du Toit needs to beat him no matter what. He's seeing Brady Liebenberg taking 4 out of 4 so far. He cannot afford to let him go any further up the field than what he is right now in 3rd place. Or is that 2nd? I think he might have squeezed through. Jonathan du Toit? No, Jonathan du Toit's got through. Great start there from Maurice Jackson as well. Look at how he's chopping and changing in that mid-pack. It's brilliant to see that onboard action. Du Toit has hit the front. He did find a way through and managed to keep out Brad Liebenberg Naka down into 3rd place. As we go back on board here with Maurice Jackson, as he looks to go into Sunset Corner. Is it quite sunset just yet? Let's have a look and see. There you go. It's a slight example of why that corner is known as Sunset Corner. The leaders are into clubhouse though, and it is du Toit who currently leads, keeping out Brad Liebenberg. It's exactly what he needs to do. Remember, as I said, Brad Liebenberg's got 4 out of 4 so far, so he's got a nice lead in the championship. Can du Toit do anything about that right now? He's hoping that Ryan Naka is going to help him out a bit, maybe just give Brad Liebenberg a little bit more of a run for his money. The Primogen Audi is the 2nd Audi on track. The 3rd one is Maurice Jackson. He's tucked in just behind that as they come up onto the shelf at Leeuwkop. Locking up of the brakes there from the Liqui Moly Lamborghini. Damien Hammond, you're not really doing that, but not with those 2 Audis looking to pounce from behind. They'll definitely make you pay, particularly Paul Hill. He's not too afraid with having a go when he sees a chink in the armour of a car ahead of him. And you can see he carries great corner speed down there into the sweep coming towards Crocodiles. So off the mine shaft, the 2nd fastest part of the circuit, he comes flying up onto the rear end of that Lamborghini and has closed the gap down pretty dramatically because of that small mistake that we saw out of Hammond. Budnick, much better start this time. Didn't quite have the start he wanted. It died on the line there for the big V10. But looks like Bucket List Racing's got that car sorted out now for race 2. Back on board here with Jackson as they come out of the final turn. It's always a great shot to see here at Kyalami. You get to see the pit lane, the main pit lane, of course, on the left-hand side, and then underneath the bridge as they start the lap down towards the fastest part of the track, just before Crowthorne. These cars will get just over 240 k's an hour as they climb on the brakes and down into sometimes 1st gear, depending on the gearing on the cars. The majority of them will be 1st or 2nd gear coming out of Crowthorne, and then into the complex of Yuxke and Barbecue, up onto the short straight where they pass the 2nd set of pits that we've got here for this double header weekender that Extremes Festival have put together. And it looks like Jackson's closed that gap down. Paul Hill has not pulled away like he did earlier on in race number 1. And Jackson definitely looks like he's a little bit more in control there of closing that gap down and possibly getting ahead of Paul Hill. The 1st Audi is looking to do exactly that to Jonathan du Toit. But du Toit, at the front end of a race on any circuit, is a very difficult man to pass. And he's going to make that Audi exceptionally wide. And let's see what that Hurricane can do to keep out the R8 of Brad Liebenberg. Jackson, maybe I spoke too soon. I maybe gave him the commentator's curse there because Jackson has fallen back now slightly behind Paul Hill as they came out of the S's. Similar manoeuvre here coming from Jonathan du Toit. He's been able to maintain this gap, and I think he might get it all the way to the line. We're on the final lap as they come out of Crocodiles. They head through into the right-hander at Cheetah, and then it's a little short squirt up into the final turn. Brad's going to have a look, I'm sure. Oh, but Toy doesn't allow him. Toy goes defensive instantaneously. They're going to compromise his drive slightly, but he might still be able to get on the loud pedal and stay ahead. They are side by side into the line, and Jonathan Toy has just hung on. Can you believe that? Amazing stuff from Jonathan Toy to beat out Brad Liebenberg to the line. Marius Jackson also in with a chance here, but it looks like he's dropped back slightly there. As I said, maybe there's a slight problem there on Jackson's car, but Paul Hill definitely got away from him, and now has got that's first place in Class A wrapped up. This is Damien Hammond coming up on the back end of Jimbo Jonakara, just lapping him into the final stages. It's Budnick who goes through there for fourth place, and Hammond will come through for the top 5 in the Liqui Moly Lamborghini Trofeo. So in the official results, Jonathan Toy gets the victory, with Brad Liebenberg being bumped down to last with a disqualification for that time penalty. And Gianni Jonakara had some problems as well, dropping down to second last in the McLaren. The battles for Extreme Supercars driven by Dunlop resume on the 21st of June at Swartkops, the next round of the Extreme Festival of Motorsport presented by Coca-Cola. Make sure you come and join us there. All this extreme supercar action is driven by Dunlop.